We have made it to the final week of the regular season here in year number 1 of the Cleveland Browns franchise here on Madden 26. We're headed to Cincinnati, facing off against Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the Bengals. The Browns are currently 4-12, and obviously we are long eliminated from playoff contention. However, the result of this game will likely set up the franchise for years to come. And you might be thinking, well, how is that possible? We're 4-12. The season's about to end. How is this game relevant? Well, with a loss, the Cleveland Browns will clinch the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Remember, just a few weeks ago, there was a 6-way tie for the worst record in the league. And for whatever reason, we had the worst tiebreaker of that group, so we would have picked 6th overall. But the other 5 teams in that group have all won since then. So that means we will get our pick of the litter of the top prospects in this class, including projected number 1 pick Kieran Riddle, the quarterback from Alabama. Spoilers ahead for those of you who may have missed the ending of the college football playoff in the Virginia Tech series. But Kieran Riddle and the Tide made it all the way to the national championship, losing to the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Texas Tech with plenty of talented players scattered throughout the draft class and more guys who I think we're going to see in future seasons. I've already begun to start moving player rankings. Tyree Wells, for instance, is moved up to number 7, although there is a chance he returns to school. Brennan Holloway's stock has gone down. Wambly Mendoza's has gone up. And I'll continue to do this for some of the other positions, especially the offensive positions, since I've just recently put the defensive players in the class, so there's not really much to move with them. We do have a prospect profile today, but before that, I want to highlight a couple of guys who I've added late to the draft class from the Kansas save file. And we'll start with tight end Isaiah Lamore, who obviously does not currently play for Kansas, but he was a 3-year starter for the Jayhawks before transferring to Ohio State. Good hands, solid route runner, pretty good athlete. He kind of peaked in terms of his rating early in his collegiate career, and he was largely the same player from his freshman year to his senior year, which on one hand shows that he was really consistent. 4-year starter. We knew exactly what we were going to get out of him, but the ceiling is kind of limited given that he was the same player. I think he's going to be a good pro at the next level, but I think his ceiling is kind of capped. Reggie Chanel at left tackle, a possible first rounder. He had a phenomenal redshirt sophomore season, turned into one of the premier pass blockers in college football, only letting up 2 sacks compared to allowing 7 as a freshman. Granted, as a freshman, he was blocking for Clyde Poole, whose quarterback play style is a lot more erratic compared to Kerry Chosen. And then we have another offensive lineman in Luis Roche, who's being looked at as a mid-day 2 guy, did not let up any sacks this most recent season as a redshirt junior. There are some defensive players from the Kansas save file as well. We'll go over them today as we talk about the linebackers and defensive backs in this year's draft class. It's not exactly a secret that our linebacking core is absolutely horrific. That position group was a strength earlier in the year, but we traded away Jerome Baker to the Chargers, maximizing on his value, and then Carson Schlesinger hurt his pec. So we went from having 2 really good linebackers to having none in an alarmingly short amount of time. Schlesinger is obviously an exciting player for the future, but we still need another couple of starters at the linebacker position because ever since he got injured against the Ravens, it's been rough. I mean, every week, the opposing quarterback seems to find a way to get 50, 60, 70 rushing yards against us. Even Geno Smith did. Our linebackers do not know how to contain scrambling quarterbacks whatsoever. They're not good in coverage. They're not very good against the run. I mean, it is brutal. And as much as we really like Carson Schlesinger, he's not enough, because even when he was in there, I was starting to notice some of the issues after we traded away Jerome Baker. I will say Devin Bush has given us some splash plays this year, but that's really about it for the positives at the linebacker position. So we'll start at the Sam spot. There are some unique players here. These guys are probably going to switch positions depending on what type of scheme drafts them, including Oregon's Emmanuel Nyman, a projected fringe first-rounder. He was a 4-year depth player at the University of Texas before transferring to Oregon, where he's converted into a hybrid edge rusher and has been excellent this year with the Ducks, seemingly coming out of nowhere. But I like his skill set for the next level. 6'4", 240 pounds. He's an electric athlete. He gets off the ball extremely quick. He flies to the line of scrimmage. And I think he's got the play strength to be able to manage with bigger and stronger offensive linemen at the next level. Nyman this year has 9.5 sacks and 19 TFLs. I really think he's probably more of an edge rusher, but his position, again, will largely depend on which team ends up drafting him. After him, we move down a little bit. I like KT Stevens quite a bit from Miami. He's currently being looked at as a second-round guy. Highly instinctive cover linebacker who can defend the run as well. He's undersized, though. 6'1", 220 pounds. I don't think he has the quickness to be a safety. I think you're going to need to keep him at linebacker. Miami's played him in a lot of different spots. Off-the-ball linebacker. They've put his hand in the dirt. He sometimes gets reps as an edge rusher. I cannot imagine that will stick in the NFL, given that he is 220 pounds. But I think he can move well enough in space to where this is someone who you trust as an off-ball linebacker at the next level, and a guy who's a really, really good run defender who can stay on the field on early downs. I wasn't sure which position to classify Kansas edge rusher Roddy Orr in. He came to Kansas out of the portal as a linebacker, and I think given his size, listing him here at the same position as a guy like Nyman makes sense. Looking at the day 3 guys, I like Joshua Saliga from Ohio State quite a bit. I thought he looked good in the playoff. As for the other outside linebacker position, the will linebacker, we'll start with Malcolm Chancellor from Ohio State. Another guy who I was impressed with in the college football playoff. He made some really nice plays for the Buckeyes. He was definitely one of their best players defensively. Like Nyman, he's projected as a fringe first-rounder, 6'4", 245. So physically, he's built very similarly to Nyman, although I think he's a little bit more of a traditional linebacker. This is someone who probably could rotate as an edge rusher when needed, but he's primarily a covered player who's a good run defender. And I think he's a guy who's going to be able to contribute pretty early on. Has some similarities in a lot of ways to Carson Schlesinger coming out of UCLA, and he'll probably go in that same general range of late first, early second round. Cody Limador from USC is a fun player. The Trojans have a lot of good defensive prospects, many of whom are not even draft eligible yet, but they've got a handful of guys we'll go over today, including Limador, who is a very solid cover player. But much like KT Stevens of Miami, who we talked about earlier, he is undersized. 6'1", 216 pounds. Linebackers are generally getting smaller, it feels like, in today's game. So I certainly see a world where a guy like him can stick around in the NFL. But even so, at a position that is shrinking, he is still on the smaller side. 3-year starter, very consistent production, all 3 years with the Trojans. Kona Kelakipi, really good run defender from USF. I think he's got a high floor. And then we get to these two. Willie Fonmagana from USC and Mac Wordle from Oklahoma. These two guys go hand in hand, and we'll start with Wordle, actually, because I think it makes more sense to introduce him first. So, Wordle's stock went down a lot this year. Coming into this season, he was a projected probably top 15 pick, and Oklahoma just didn't really know how to use him. And when he was on the field, he wasn't that productive. He's a 6'2", 250-pound, a hybrid edge rusher who started his career at USC, where he was a dominant pass rusher. Nearly 30 sacks over the last 2 seasons before transferring to Oklahoma. Why he left USC, I don't really know. And that ended up being a big mistake. It costed him a lot of money. He probably should have declared for the draft when he had the opportunity to do so, when he had 19 sacks as a sophomore. Now, my thing with his 19-sack season with the Trojans is I feel, while he was obviously very good, much of his production is because of the defensive scheme that USC runs. So because of that, Willie Fonmagana, who had 15 sacks this year, he looked like a first-round pick in terms of his production, but I'm a little bit wary of him because it's easy to ask the question, was it the scheme? Was it the same scheme that allowed for a guy like Mac Wordle, who was useless at Oklahoma, to get nearly 20 sacks as a sophomore? Now, scheme aside, Fonmagana played really well this year. He was an extremely impactful player. He was one of the best in the Big Ten, and he played like a first-rounder. But it is a little bit alarming that he was also on the bench for USC for 3 years, seemingly as a no-name depth piece, who gets put into this favorable defensive scheme and pops off. 14 sacks in only 9 games. He missed part of the year with a broken wrist and still put up huge numbers. So I really don't know what to make of either one of these guys. Fringe top 100 picks. Somebody's going to take the gamble. Maybe they end up good, maybe not. After those two, we've got Nicholas Champion from Michigan State, highly productive player, not the greatest athlete. Same can be said about Theo Callum Jr. from Clemson. He's a good player. He's just slow. And then as we move over to Mike, I don't think there's anybody here who's going to go in the first round, but it's a really deep crop. A lot of good players in this off-ball linebacker crop, and, well, lucky us, given that this is one of our biggest needs, and we're certainly going to draft one of these linebackers, as we start with Elijah Parsons out of Florida State. Very rangy, instinctive athlete. I think he's going to come in with pretty good size, 6'1", 235 pounds. He can glide for a guy who weighs as much as he does. He plays with physicality. He's also a good cover player who I think has a lot of room to grow. He's gotten better and better during his time at Florida State in a very quick rate. So I think his quick ascension is going to really appease NFL teams because, well, the sky could be the limit with his development track. Started his career at Auburn where he was a good player, but I think he's elevated himself at Florida State. Granted, he was a little inconsistent, especially this year in terms of coverage. Teams picked on him a little bit more because of some of the other players on the Florida State defense, but overall, I think he's going to be a pretty good pro. Greg Pollard from Southern Miss. He's 24 years old. He doesn't play against the best of competition, and I, quite frankly, do not give a damn because this guy can flat out hoop. He is an awesome player, 4-year starter with the Golden Eagles, where he has become arguably their best defensive player, which says something because they have defensive tackle Aaron Wagonlee, who's projected as a high first-round draft pick. Pollard is the guy who's kind of the heart and soul of this defense. He's a phenomenal cover player, has elite ball skills. Look at the interception total throughout his career. 4 as a senior, 7 as a junior, 7 as a sophomore, with at least 99 tackles in all 4 seasons as a starter. He just knows where to get to the football. His instincts are really impressive. Oftentimes when you have these older, smaller school guys, they're likely lacking in athleticism, and maybe Pollard isn't some freak, but he's a good athlete. He checks off all the boxes, and in my opinion, is certainly a worthy second-rounder. Kevin Suggs from Middle Tennessee State had a great junior season. Parker Jackson from Penn State, young, ascending player, only 21 years old. I think teams are going to like the upside. Monu Okeji, another Jayhawk. Really good blitzer. I think he could carve out a really fun role early on in the NFL as a designated third down guy who blitzes the quarterback with the potential to be a little bit more. Then as we get to this fringe day 2 crop, I really think this is where the value is. We'll start with Devin Sosa from SMU. He flies to the backfield like a rocket. I mean, he gets there so quick. His explosiveness is really impressive, especially for a bigger guy. At 6'2", 240, he is not tiny. I thought he was good but not great in the playoff games. I wouldn't say he really stood out positively, but he looked pretty good out there. Sosa racks up a ton of tackles because, again, the instincts with him are really apparent. He just knows how to find the football. It's something that you can't really teach. He's just kind of got that it factor to him. Only a 1-year starter, but a one really good season of starting, and he's only 21 years old. He's a super young player. Tanner Mariani from Alabama, one of the biggest winners of the college football playoff. He was awesome in all 3 games that Alabama played. I mean, this guy flew around the field. You want to talk about instincts. Wherever the ball was, number 47, Tanner Mariani, seemed to end up. Mariani had a good but not great collegiate career and a good but not great season, but I like the athletic profile. I love how he performed in the playoffs. Spent the first 3 seasons of his career at James Madison, so a local guy to Virginia Tech, and he was very solid with the Dukes. I'm not really sure what tempted Alabama into getting him through the portal, but clearly it worked. He had a phenomenal season, then, as I mentioned, great run in the playoff. If I got a nickel for every time Alabama got a player in the transfer portal from a Virginia school who was largely mediocre for 3 years and then ended up popping off at Alabama, I would have 2 nickels. It's not a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice. Nonetheless, I think Mariani as a fringe top 100 pick could end up being really good value if he looks anything like he did during the playoff. Lucas O'Brien from Kentucky, good athlete, good cover guy. Noah Singleton from Virginia Tech, shout out the Hokies. Noah Singleton has been a rock in the middle of the Virginia Tech defense as a 4-year starter. Here he is recovering a fumble from the aforementioned Kieran Riddle of Alabama. his former teammate for 3 years with the Hokies. I think Singleton's body of work in terms of his production is going to get NFL teams really excited. I think the character that this young man has as a multi-time team captain will get NFL teams excited. And I think the athletic profile is really solid. Again, he's not some freak, but 6'2", 230, moves around pretty well in space. Had a couple of really bad reps at times this year, a couple of bad missed tackles, but overall, a very, very consistent player who was phenomenal in run defense this year. Really took a leap in that category with 21 TFLs. Andre President from Tennessee, you'll never guess his nickname. The President, where did they come up with that one? Nathaniel Connor from Appalachian State, undersized but dynamic ball hawk, 7 interceptions this year for the Mountaineers. Shamelo Harris Jr., I think, is a talented player. Jason Blades from Tennessee, ridiculous athlete. That guy is going to run a fast 40, probably sub 4.4. But the rest of this game is really raw. As for the secondary, I would argue this is one of the stronger position groups of this team. We've got Denzel Ward, who's really good, but Ward is 29 years old with an injury history. Cornerbacks do not age gracefully into their 30s. I'll give him credit. He stayed healthy this year. He's only missed 1 game, which is impressive for a guy who's never played a full season in his 8 NFL seasons. Greg Newsome, we extended. He's a guy we're going to build around. Martin Emerson's not here because he's hurt, but Martin Emerson's on the team too. Granted, he is expiring. And then we've got a good group of veteran safeties. Rayshon Jenkins has had a nice year. And then, of course, Grant Delpit has played really well for us. Guess how many players have more interceptions this year than Grant Delpit? None. He's tied with Levante David for the most in the NFL. A lot of his interceptions are on lob passes that quarterbacks just kind of hurled up rather than him making some great play on the ball. But still, you don't luck into 6 interceptions out of nowhere. So we'll start at the cornerback position and then go over to safety. Cornerback is a strength in the short term for us. Now, other than Greg Newsome, who was just extended, I'm not sure if anybody on the roster is going to be here for the super long term. It's not an overly top-heavy crop at corner, which I guess is kind of the good thing, given that it's unlikely we would pick one in the first round, given that we have much bigger needs. There are 3 guys, though, currently projected to go towards the back end of the first round, and then a very deep group into day 2. So we'll start with Jackson Hovercraft from LSU, who is the very slight favorite to be CB1. I think if you ask different executives around the league, they would give you a different answer of who the top corner is. Hovercraft, to me, is a third-round prospect in a top 10 picks body. 6'10", 220. He's big, he's physical, he uses his size in press coverage really well, but he's just a little bit raw in terms of his coverage ability. He's not one of the better cover corners in this class immediately, and picking him is going to be a little bit of a gamble for whoever does it because it is largely a traits-based, I don't know if guess is the right word, but an estimation that he will continue to develop into a good player. The ball skills have really gotten better. 6 interceptions this year with the Tigers. One of their team captains as well for a third-year junior. That's really impressive. Chance Roller from Michigan is up next. Since his last name is Roller, maybe we're obligated to draft him. Nonetheless, I like Chance Roller's game quite a bit. A redshirt senior who was a bit of a late bloomer, but has really turned into a good player. 5'11", 205 pounds. His ball skills have certainly gotten better throughout his career. Another guy who I really trust in coverage. He is a phenomenal athlete. He's super fast. Him and Jackson Hovercraft are going to dominate the combine. A big reason why they are towards the top of this class at the cornerback position. He finished with 4 interceptions this year, 12 over his career with 3 different schools. Really found a home at the University of Michigan. Then we get to the Georgia guys. The Bulldogs have, I think, 4 highly projected picks in the secondary, 3 possible first-rounders. We'll start with the senior Tyler Gamble. Quarterbacks did not throw the ball his way this year, and when they did, as you can see here with Kieran Riddle, it was largely a mistake. Gamble only had 3 interceptions this year, which is low for him. 2 of them, though, came in the semifinal game against Alabama. 5'11", maybe 6 foot on a good day, coming in at 215 pounds. One of the best pure cover players in the draft. He's great in man, he's great in zone, good athlete, good ball skills. The interception numbers are down this year because quarterbacks are a little bit more cautious of throwing it near him. He had 7 as a junior and then 6 the year prior as a sophomore. I would argue he was a little bit more consistent, though, his junior and sophomore seasons, but he was still very good this year. And in terms of production, he's probably the most productive corner in this draft. I just think Hovercraft and Roller, their traits are a little bit better, which could lead to them going earlier. And then we get to Lorenzo Hilton out of Georgia. Unlike Gamble, we didn't really talk about Hilton at all during the 2 playoff games we watched of Georgia, which for a corner is probably a good thing. It means they're not really throwing the ball his way. Well, that was the case for just about every team this year. They didn't throw the ball near him. 6'3", 203 pounds. He's got really good size. I'd like to see him be a little bit more effective in press coverage, given his size and length. Very good zone player, though. I think if he gets drafted to a zone-heavy scheme, he could be a really good player right off the bat. I will point out, though, he did look a little bit overmatched against Alabama. With Trey Lawson and Moses Lexington, who are projected top 100 picks, he had some bad reps against those guys, which could push him out of the first round. Then we get to Nathan Dawsey from Louisville. We are quite familiar with him from the Virginia Tech dynasty. Won multiple Defensive Player of the Weeks across the nation. Won the Jim Thorpe Award as the top defensive back. And I mean, this guy's got a great story. He's not the biggest. He's not the fastest. Only a 2-star recruit. But he's got that dog in him, for a lack of a better term. And to really work his way up at Louisville, where he has turned into a phenomenal player. I think his athletic traits will hold him back a little bit at the NFL level, which is why he's not going to go in the first round, despite winning the Jim Thorpe Award. I also don't think he's as consistent in coverage as somebody like Tyler Gamble, for instance. I think the reason why he won the award is because of the counting stats. He had 6 interceptions, made a bunch of plays on the ball in terms of pass deflections. He won the National Player of the Week when Virginia Tech played against Louisville, but I didn't think he was that good in that game. Nazir Ismail kind of won that individual matchup for most of the afternoon. Dawsey just happened to have a lot of tackles, made timely PBUs and timely hits late in the game. Lamont Johnson from Pitt, I think, is a good player, although he also really struggled against Nazir Ismail when we played against them. Maybe Nazir Ismail is just that good. Striker Mose from Notre Dame, his stock really went up this year. He had a great senior season. Got an interception in the first round of the playoff against projected top 3 pick, Zarius Stone. Not many opposing defensive players can say they've picked off Zarius Stone this season or in Stone's entire collegiate career. 6'2", 175 pounds. He's tall and wiry. He's got long arms. I think if he can get a little bit stronger, he will have the ideal frame. He's a little bit slow, however, which is really the big thing that could keep him out of the first round, because otherwise he's got the size, he's got the wingspan, good player in man coverage, good player in zone coverage, and oh yeah, he had 7 interceptions this year. He was a 3-year starter at North Carolina before transferring to Notre Dame, where he really blossomed. Good player with the Tar Heels, but was great for Notre Dame. One of their best defensive players, and that says something. Their defense this year was ridiculously good. We've got another Jayhawk, Kansas junior, Quantavius Landers. The former 5-star recruit has gone through a lot of ups and downs throughout his collegiate career. We've kind of been through the ringer with him. Really inconsistent player early on. I mean, we kind of threw him into the fire as a true freshman starting right away. He wasn't very good. Got better as a sophomore and really took a big leap as a junior. His ball production went up. He had 6 interceptions. Good size. Pretty good athleticism. He still is a little inconsistent in terms of his cover ability. I don't think he's a great zone player in particular off the bat, but he's fast. He's pretty tall. 10 interceptions in 3 years. The ball skills are really solid. And again, his development track has been really fun to see, and I think teams are going to like that. He's found a way to get better and better, noticeably better, throughout his collegiate career. He went from a kind of a liability out there into a really good player. Dominic Proctor from Arizona. I like his skill set. He's a little bit undersized, but he's tough. He's physical. Really good tackler. Really good run defender. He's kind of got that dog in him, and I think he's a really good culture guy. For a young team, it's not always easy to get DBs to buy in to playing the run. He seems to love it. Good athleticism, good cover player, very solid in man, pretty good in zone too. I think the floor with Dominic Proctor is really high. I don't know if he's ever going to become some great player, but this is a guy who I would feel pretty confident starting pretty early on in his NFL career. And I think the floor is going to get him drafted in the top 100 and make some fan base really happy. Pretty good player during his 2 seasons at Oklahoma State, transfers home to Arizona, where, again, really, really solid. One of the most consistent players, regardless of position, in the entire draft. Let's take a look at Corey Bath next, out of Missouri. We got to play against the Tigers this year with Virginia Tech. Bath had a 50-some-yard receiving touchdown, but he's also a very good defensive player, although he as well was not very good against Nazir Ismail. I'm noticing a common theme here. That's the third top 100 pick who struggled against him. The biggest reason is probably the 7-inch difference. Bath is only 5'10", but he's really fast. Very good ball skills. I thought he had a really good season otherwise in coverage. One of his lesser games defensively was the Virginia Tech matchup against Ishmael, who's just very clearly a size mismatch for smaller DBs. 3 interceptions this year for Bath, who only allowed 24 catches. Really, really impressive. And apparently he can play a little offense too. Let's look at the Clemson trio. King Wooden, Isaiah Barnett, and Gavin Gaines. All 3 of whom went to Clemson. We'll start with Barnett. 6'1", 175 pounds. He largely played the slot this year with the other 2 guys on the outside. I think he is probably physically more of a boundary corner, though. Clemson just felt like his instincts around the ball were probably the best of the group, which is why they wanted to throw him in the slot. So if anything, that's kind of a compliment to him, even though they sort of misused him. He's played a lot of football. I don't know how he didn't get a year of eligibility taken in 2031, but it worked out. Phenomenal freshman season with 8 interceptions. Was worse the next 2 seasons. This year, no interceptions, but he was a lot better in coverage. So he's kind of been inconsistent year to year. His freshman year was probably his best, if we're being honest. But this is a guy who knows how to find the football. A lot of tackles, especially being the primary slot guy. And then Gavin Gaines, really polarizing player. Gaines is a younger guy, redshirt junior, leaving school early. I think he should go back. I think he could be a top 50 pick with a good senior season at Clemson. There's a lot to like with him, though. 5'10", around 200 pounds. He's just really bad in man coverage. Everything else is phenomenal. He might be the best zone corner in the entire draft. He's one of the fastest corners in the draft. He's got phenomenal ball skills. 5 interceptions in each of the last 2 years, and he's a very willing run defender. His technique in man coverage is just so sloppy. He bites on a lot of double moves. His footwork is not good. He's grabby, handsy, a lot of penalties. Little bit inconsistent. Actually, a lot of bit inconsistent. He's got to get better in man coverage. I'm hoping a zone-heavy team drafts him, because otherwise it might be kind of rough for him. And then we get to Bryson Jackson out of Kansas State. He is a really good football player, and I think NFL teams are kind of overthinking it with him. He's one of the best football players in the draft. The problem is he is short and he is slow. And those traits are going to lose him quite a bit of money. This guy's an awesome cover player, though. Man coverage, zone coverage, press coverage, outside, slot, wherever you want him. He's really good. Kansas State played him a lot in the slot this year. They wanted him near the line of scrimmage because he's such a dangerous playmaker. Transfer from Miami of Ohio. Good player in the MAC. Really good player this year with the Wildcats. I think some team's going to get a steal in the 4th or 5th round with him, to be completely honest. I know the traits are not good, but man, he's an awesome football player, and I think the NFL letting him fall that far would be making a mistake. Jamison Huntley, talented player from Syracuse. We did not get to see him because he was hurt. We did get to see Colson Clay, who, unlike a lot of the corners ahead of him, did play really well against us. He had an interception against Clyde Poole. Nicholas Cooker and Isaiah Spellman, both intriguing guys. Kelvin Mondo, the Georgia slot corner, he's a good player. Willie Vaughn of Jacksonville State, very productive guy with the Gamecocks. James Danielson, the third of Miami, I think he's talented. Aiden Cargill from Auburn, I think, could end up being a steal. And then as we move over to safety, I think it's a pretty strong group of safeties, especially at strong safety, so that's where we'll start. 3 guys who could end up going in the first round. We got to see all 3 of these guys in the playoff, and we'll start with Spencer Turpin, the highest projected defensive back, the highest projected player we're going to go over at all today. The redshirt sophomore from Georgia is just, simply put, one of the best football players in this draft. Reminds me a lot of Brian Branch. Very instinctive player, can line up just about anywhere. You want him to be the deep center field free safety who can cover a lot of space? Check. You want to put him in the slot near the line of scrimmage so he can make plays like this? Check. You want to put him at strong safety, move him around the field like a chess piece? Check. You want him in man coverage against a wide receiver or a tight end? Check. He really can do it all. First team All-American this season with the Bulldogs. Good athletic traits. He's a little bit small, but it doesn't really matter. He matches up well physically in man coverage with receivers who are bigger than him. So I really don't think that's going to be much of a learning curve for him. The reason why he's projected outside of the top 10 is that he is a safety. He doesn't really have a clear position because he lines up everywhere on the Georgia defense. So I think teams might be a little bit weary that he's a tweener. I don't care. The guy is just that good. One of the best pure football players in the entire draft. I think Spencer Turpin could be an all-pro very quickly. Ben Masafilo from Notre Dame could also be a first-rounder. Had an interception in the game against Spencer Turpin's Georgia Bulldogs, making this nice grab in the end zone against a talented passer for Georgia in Hoppy Reynolds. Masafilo is a really good athlete. 6 foot, 210 pounds. He's bigger than Spencer Turpin. He's also faster than Turpin as well. Good cover player. I don't think he's quite as just overall good of a football player as Turpin is, though. I don't think he's quite got the instincts or the football IQ, but he is a little bit better athletically. Started his career at Oregon. He had 4 interceptions in just 5 games as a sophomore. Then he got hurt. Transfers to Notre Dame, where teams are a lot more wary of throwing the ball near him. Emilio Barbosa from Ohio State made a lot of plays throughout the college football playoff. Another guy who's just really instinctive. All 3 of these top strong safeties have a lot of the same strengths. They just know how to find the ball. They just have a knack for it. Again, it's something that you can't really teach. They've all just kind of got this it factor about them that I think will help them in the NFL. Barbosa's an impressive athlete. He's a very good run defender, very good tackler. I don't think he's as good in coverage as either Masafilo or Turpin. That's why he's probably going to go below them. Really good size, though, at 6'2", 213. You can put him in the box. You can put him at either safety spot. Behind those guys, we've got Braylon McKnight from Florida State, talented player. Molly Law Yee, former 5-star recruit at Washington. Warren Brockle, the other first-team All-American safety with Spencer Turpin from Colorado. Not a great athlete, though. And then as we get to free safety, Javier Callaway of Kansas. We got him in the transfer portal from Nebraska, where he was a good but certainly not a great player with the Cornhuskers. Well, in his lone season with the Jayhawks, he picked off 10 passes, including the clincher in the national championship game. I do want to point out, because technically we had Kansas win a championship, and then in the actual series here, we had Texas Tech win it. I'm going to refer to Texas Tech as the national champion because that happened in this series and in this universe, and we're just kind of bringing the Kansas guys over. But regardless, Javier Callaway had a ridiculous senior season with the Jayhawks. I think his season certainly was worthy of first-round consideration. He's not the biggest guy, though. He's not the fastest. He has some bad reps in coverage, but, man, the ball skills are just so good. Norrance Walnut from Miami, only 20 years old, super young. Zay Palacios from Oregon, talented player. Aiden McGann from Central Michigan. And then we've got to talk about Jermichael Bredesen from Texas Tech. Javier Callaway had the clinching national champion interception. Well, Jermichael Bredesen had the important national championship interception, housing this one for a 102-yard pick six. Alabama was about to score a touchdown. They could have made it a 3-point game. Instead, the pick six by Bredesen made it a 3-possession game going into halftime, and Alabama was never able to come back. Had the Crimson Tide scored a touchdown on that drive, they probably would have won the game. But the interception by Bredesen was the play that won it for Texas Tech. Bredesen was a massive winner of the college football playoff. He didn't even play in their first game against USF. He was injured. But then in the last 2 games against Ohio State and Alabama, best 2 games of his career. He had 0 interceptions going into the playoff, but he got a big one in the fourth quarter against Ohio State. And then the play of the year, the interception against Alabama, to go along with 27 of his 58 tackles in just those 2 playoff games. Talk about saving your best for last. I really wasn't familiar with him at all going into the playoff, but he ended up being one of their best players. You could easily argue, even though he didn't play in the first game, that he should have won the college football playoff MVP. Akil Anthrop from Michigan State had a great year. Iverson Gamble from Penn State, really good player, but has just struggled to stay on the field. A lot of injury issues with him. Steezy Mondo, 4 different schools this year at Minnesota. And then Kai Abiamiri had 2 interceptions in the first-round playoff game for South Florida against Tennessee. So with that, we've gone through every single position group of the draft class. Now, there are probably going to be some changes by the time we get into the offseason. A few players moving out, a few players moving in. But for the most part, we kind of know the group that we're going to be looking at going into the draft, which, of course, will be within the next few episodes. Let's take a look at this game against the Bengals. You can see the injury report. We are pretty banged up. Myles Garrett, Mason Graham, Carson Schlesinger, Jerry Jeudy, DeJuan Jones all out. You could argue these first four guys might be the four best players on the team, and they will all be unavailable. Mason Graham and Jerry Jeudy going on IR. They just got hurt last week. So we're going to sign Juwan Briggs off the practice squad. I thought he was pretty good in the preseason. And then we need some more bodies who can play linebacker or safety. So I'm going to look at Ifeatu Melifonwu, who was with the Dolphins this offseason. I think he made the team but got cut later in the year. I did like him in Detroit. He just couldn't really stay healthy, but a good blitzer, fun player to watch, made the splash plays, even if he never was all that consistent. So as we look at this Bengals team, they have another Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate in Barrett Carter. But Graham, Carter, and Schlesinger are all hurt. Oluwafemi Oladejo is going to win the award by virtue of being the last man standing because all of his competition is out. The Bengals are 7-9. They were just officially eliminated from the playoffs this past week, so they don't really have much to play for. But that's not because of these two, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, much like last year. Historically good season, but the rest of the team around these guys failed them. Burrow, now 28 years old, another season not going into the playoffs despite putting up ridiculous individual statistics, doing everything he can to keep the Bengals in the win column. 104 passer rating, 34-6 touchdown to interception ratio. Burrow, by the way, is in first place for the MVP. It feels a little bit odd for a team who's 7-9 to have first place for MVP, but Joe Burrow has been that good. Chase Brown, of course, at running back, along with the dynamic duo of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins at wide receiver, along with guys like Kayshon Boutte and Andre Yoshivas. Jamar Chase arguably could have won the Offensive Player of the Year last season. He probably would have won it in a normal year, if not for Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. This season, though, Saquon and Henry are not putting up 2,000 yards, so because of that, his numbers, which are very similar to last year, has him at first for Offensive Player of the Year. He leads the NFL in receiving yards by about 300. He has been clearly the best player at the position in the National Football League, so boy, we are in for it trying to cover him. The rest of this roster, though, is not very good. There's a reason why this team is only 7-9, with arguably the best player, if you're not accounting for positional value, in Jamar Chase, and then arguably the most valuable player in Joe Burrow, both on this team. Yet they're 7-9 and out of the playoff. This game is a little bit more important for the Browns in terms of draft position. Obviously, we're going to try to win it. I mean, you cannot convince a group of players to lose for a draft pick. I have some comments that want me to tank. I saw a suggestion in the Discord that said we should put Harold Fannin at quarterback. No, we are playing to win the game. No matter what the circumstances are, as Cam Mitchell takes it on the kick return, spin move, juke move, fumble! And it's eventually picked up by the Bengals. Well, maybe everybody wants to win except for Cam Mitchell, who fumbles the opening kickoff, and the Bengals are going to get it on our 25-yard line within 7 seconds of the game. 3rd down and 8 at the 13. Burrow looks to throw it up the middle. It is caught inside the 5. Chase Brown to the 3, and now Grant Delpit is hurt. Great. Our 5 best players are now hurt. Who would have thought the last really good player to be healthy is Denzel Ward? As Chase Brown's got it, walks into the end zone for a touchdown, and the Cincinnati Bengals strike first. They lead 7-0. The Bengals, of course, playing for some pride. They might be playing for Zach Taylor's job as well. Foot contusion for Delpit. We're probably not going to play him much the rest of the game. There's not really a point. He's banged up, and, well, there are worse worldwide scenarios out there than the Browns losing today. As we look at Shedeur Sanders, this could be his final opportunity to show why he should be the starting quarterback going into next year and beyond. Sanders steps up, scrambles, gets a good block from Dotson, who's eventually pushed down. But the initial block on Demetrius Knight gives Sanders room to scramble for the first down. Playing against a good defense a week ago, the offense played very well against Baltimore. Juke move for Judkins. He gets it to the 38. The offense played well enough to win the game. The problem is all of the good players on defense, for the most part, are hurt. I mean, it really is Grant Delpit, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and friends. 3rd and 8. Sanders is sacked. Trey Hendrickson makes the play. That'll lead to a punt. Not a good start for the Browns, unless you want the Browns to lose, which I know there's a lot of you out there. So in that case, maybe it is a good start for your interests, as Jamar Chase breaks the tackle to the 37-yard line. Good play there by the heavy favorite to finally take home an Offensive Player of the Year award. Feels like he's due. Burrow passes it to Noah Fant. Fant throws it down the field for Brown, who's got blocks. Chase Brown all the way to the 13-yard line. A gain of 38 on the pass by Noah Fant. And then at the 3, second and goal. Burrow, short throw is caught for a touchdown by, fittingly, Noah Fant. Why are the Bengals running trick plays? I mean, they're eliminated. Don't you want to save those for next year? Maybe Zach Taylor knows he's getting fired, so he figures, screw it, why not have some fun? 3rd and 4. Sanders looking for Jabari Thrash. It is intercepted, but out of bounds by DJ Turner. We're going to keep the offense out on the field here on 4th and 4. It's week 18. Why not? Get some more reps for these guys in high-pressure 4th down scenarios. Sanders looks to throw it on the comeback route. He's got Cedric Tillman out of bounds at the 38-yard line. That'll wrap up what was otherwise a very bad first quarter for Cleveland. The Bengals lead it 14-0. Cleveland looks like a team who is prepared to pick number 1 overall, although we've got 3 more quarters left to go. We got a big 4th down conversion from Sanders to Tillman, and now the offense is starting to move the ball a little bit. We'll see if that can potentially, hopefully, in my opinion, hopefully, lead to some points as it's 3rd down and 9 at the 37. Sanders looks to throw it up the middle. He's got Isaiah Bond, who gets leveled to the ground by Jordan Battle. Bond had a great game last week, finally getting him a lot of reps. He had almost 100 yards. Bengals call a timeout before the 4th and 2. Trying to talk things over as we are going to go for it once again. Judkins lines up as a receiver in the slot. Sanders looks to throw it, not even close. Isaiah Bond was open with some clear miscommunication. Sanders did not time the throw well, and the accuracy was, yikes. 3rd and 3, Burrow steps up, scrambles, run for the first down. Wrapped up by a few Cleveland defenders, including Ifeatu Melifonwu, amongst others. Bengals nearing the red zone. 3rd and 8. Burrow, short throw is caught. First down. It is Kayshon Boutte breaking tackles into the end zone for a touchdown. And the Cincinnati Bengals add to the lead. It's 21-0. 3 drives, 3 trips to the end zone for arguably the NFL's top passing game against maybe the worst defense the league has ever seen. From the 27, Sanders sacked for a second time by Trey Hendrickson. The pressure from Sanders' blind side has certainly been felt throughout this game. 2nd and 18. Judkins with room up the middle makes up all the yardage and then some. He gets 17 yards, making it a 3rd down and 1 with around 4 minutes to go in the first half. Sanders hands it off. Jerome Ford is pushed backwards. The Bengals with the stop. Multiple defenders in the backfield. Johnson among them. And the Cincinnati Bengals have it back. 3rd and 7. That one is caught. Fant breaks the defender's ankles for the first down. That might be the worst display of tackling I've seen from this team. And boy, that says something. Burrow on first down. Clean pocket. He's intercepted. Greg Newsome jumps the route from Yoshivash. And he is gone. 10-5 touchdown. The Browns are on the board. Greg Newsome with the pick 6. Burrow's 4th passing touchdown of the first half. Problem is, this one went to the wrong team. Hopefully that can give Cleveland the spark of momentum that they've been hoping for, as it's now 21-7. Bengals have it back late in the half, looking to add to the lead. Burrow steps up, scrambles, tucks it, and runs at the 26-yard line. Joe Burrow wrapped up past the 50. If only we had linebackers who could contain the run, like, I don't know, Jerome Baker or Carson Swessinger. 3rd down and 4 now at the 42. Burrow looks to throw it. Burrow up the middle, broken away. He was looking for Yoshivash, but Greg Newsome, who's had a great first half, is the one who breaks up the pass. That'll lead to a punt. And the Browns actually have a chance to make it a 1-score game. The problem is our offense has been completely anemic today. We've had nothing going on this side of the ball. 3rd and 6. Sanders steps up, scrambles, looks to run for it, and he is tripped up from behind. Only gains around 3. That's the rookie, Shamar Stewart. And that'll wrap up the first half. 21-7 lead for the Bengals. Burrow with 4 passing touchdowns. The only score for us coming on the defensive side of the ball. Our offense looks rough. They need a jolt of energy. The swagger that we've seen at times with Shedeur Sanders is just not there today. Let's take a look at some scores around the league. Ravens and Steelers. Baltimore has already clinched the #1 seed, but they're going to flex their muscles a little bit more going into the playoffs with a record of 14-3, the best in the NFL. The Steelers should still make the playoff, although the pressure was really on them to win this game, but I guess Pittsburgh is soft launching their inevitable wild card loss. Commanders and Eagles, believe it or not, at 7-9, both of these teams actually have a chance to make the playoff. The NFC wild card picture is very weak. This Will Shipley touchdown has the Eagles winning at 27-21, and at 8-9, the Eagles actually have a legit shot to get in. Dolphins and Patriots, New England looking to clinch a spot, currently 9-7. They, of course, almost won the division. I don't think they can pass Buffalo, but they gave the Bills a good run for their money. It's the Dolphins, though, who lead at 13-7 at the break, and they need a little bit more from Drake, May, and company if they want to get that playoff spot. New England also maybe shouldn't have lost to the Browns if they wanted that playoff spot, especially at home. We beat them in their building. New England currently the 8th seed, but the Titans play against Jacksonville. So with a New England win, the Patriots are in the playoff. They would be guaranteed to jump the loser of the Tennessee and Jacksonville game. So as we go into the second half, it's no secret that the team does not look very good. Obviously, we are depleted with injuries. We are without Jerry Jeudy on offense. We are without probably our 4 best defensive players. It's rough. We have barely had the ball. We don't have a lot of yards. The offense just looks lifeless and, as I said earlier, anemic. I mean, there's been no spark of energy from these guys. They look like they already had their flights booked to Cancun. Bengals start with the ball. Didn't they start with it in the first half? Oh, yeah, we fumbled the opening kickoff. Great job, Cam Mitchell, as Jamar Chase gets it to the 45-yard line for a Cincinnati first down. The Bengals are still, of course, as I mentioned earlier, playing for pride. Burrow and Chase playing for individual accolades. That one is caught up the middle. Keyshawn Boutte to the 28, wrapped up by Ifeatu Melifonwu, who's had some nice plays in this game. I wouldn't mind re-signing him for next year. Add some more depth. Add a versatile guy who can play a lot of different positions. Receiver in motion. Burrow looks to throw it. Looked like a design screen, although really the #1 read for Joe Burrow is to see if #1 is open, and oftentimes he is, including that play. A nice first down for Jamar Chase. First and goal. Brown breaking tackles. Look at him go! Chase Brown with a touchdown. That should have been a loss of about 3. I mean, we diagnosed the play immediately, but we've got to bring him down. There's like 4 guys who touched him. Pause. Browns have it back. Looking to get anything going offensively. Sanders hit as he throws. Nice pass. Trey Hendrickson gave him a shot in the pocket, but Sanders connects with Cedric Tillman, who gets it past midfield. The offense actually has it beyond the 50. I don't believe it. Now at the 27, offense is actually looking pretty good on this drive, first of the second half, although Sanders is sacked. It's a hat trick. Trey Hendrickson, his 3rd of the game. 3rd and 9 now at the 26. Sanders looks to throw it up the middle. Isaiah Bond to the 14. We had a couple guys running slants up the middle. Bonds was delayed to try to throw the defense off, and it worked. 3rd and 3. Dylan Sampson with the handoff. He's got blocks, and Dylan Sampson is in for a touchdown. I mentioned earlier in the season, I wanted to give him more reps as we've gotten closer to the end of the year, and it really feels like he's kind of taken a level up over these last few games. I'm super excited to see what Sampson's role going into next year will be. Noah Fant dragging Devin Bush for a first down to the 42. Fant and Bush traded for each other on draft night. The Steelers moving up to select Devin Bush with the pick that ended up becoming Noah Fant. Fun fact of the day, as Chase Brown gets it to the 35. That'll wrap up the 3rd. Both teams trading touchdowns. Bengals lead it 28-14. Going into the 4th, we'll see if the Browns can pull off an impressive comeback or if it will be Cleveland picking 1st overall in the 2026 NFL Draft. A lot riding over these next 10 minutes. We're still prioritizing the win, though. We want to build a winning foundation and a winning culture. Losing doesn't do that. Good play there on 3rd down. Grant Delpit back in the game. He hasn't gotten too many snaps, but I still wanted to throw him out there a little bit, maybe give him a chance to be the sole NFL leader in interceptions. 50-yard field goal. Evan McPherson, his kick is good. It's a 3-score lead now for the Bengals, 31-14. Browns get it back. I'm thinking about maybe giving Dillon Gabriel some reps, not so much because we're benching Shedeur Sanders, but just to give Gabriel some more snaps before the end of the year. We're not going to do it yet, as Sanders goes short. He's got David Njoku wide open. Njoku will finish roughly with a career high in yards. We've tried to extend him earlier in the year. It hasn't happened. We're still going to go for it in the offseason. Sanders connects with Jabari Thrash to the 40. Thrash was very good towards the first half of the year, a little bit quieter as the season has gone along, but arguably the second best wide receiver on the team this year after Judy. On first down, Sampson up the middle. Dylan Sampson, whoop, juke move, breaks a tackle, and he is gone! 40 yards for a house call, his second of the game. What did I say? We got to give him the ball more. Dylan Sampson, the youngest player in the NFL, breaks down the door as the Browns are within 10. 31-21. Dylan Sampson giving us some highlights here to wrap up the regular season. And what's exciting about him is he's younger than most of the players in this year's draft class. So it's almost like we're getting another rookie, but we kind of know what to expect already. Bengals have it back. Cleveland's starting to get some points, make this game look a little bit more competitive as Kayshon Boutte gets it to the 45. At the end of the day, though, Cincinnati is still in control, and they still have arguably the MVP leading the offense. Burrow, second and 10 at the 45, looks to throw it. Burrow up the middle. It is caught by T. Higgins, who gets it to the 28. We've kind of been rotating the two corners, Newsome and Ward, matching up with each of the top two receivers as Chase Brown breaks tackles, gets it to the 5. Most importantly for the Bengals, they're chewing clock. 5 minutes to go now, third and goal at the 3. Burrow goes short, and it's Chase Brown. Walk-in touchdown, his third all-purpose score of the game, second through the air. And it's back to a 3-score lead, 38-21 in favor of the Bengals. Dillon Gabriel now under center for Cleveland. We didn't get to play him a lot this year, so I figured the least we could do is give him a drive here towards the end of the year. His first throw caught by Njoku. We got to see him a lot in that Bears game a few weeks back. He went 11 of 16, only 70-some yards. Did have an interception. Granted, it wasn't really a bad throw. Third and 10, Gabriel goes short. It is caught. Isaiah Bond wrapped up immediately by Battle. We might as well go for it here on 4th and 5. I mean, there's 3.5 minutes left in the season. There's no reason not to. Gabriel looks to throw it, and it is broken away for Isaiah Bond. So the Bengals would choose some clock, although with just seconds left, they could just let the clock go. The play clock is ahead of the game clock, but they decided to tack on 3. Why? I don't know. But nonetheless, Cincinnati wins it 41-21. The Browns finish season number 1 with a record of 4-13. And this means the Cleveland Browns are now on the clock with the number 1 pick in the 2026 draft. Obviously, I was playing to win the game, and I've been talking about how this team is playing to win. But I'd be lying if I told you I was not super excited about picking first overall. I cannot remember the last time in any series I've had the number 1 pick. I get a lot of high picks, but I feel like my teams never pick at number 1. I'm pretty sure the last time we've had a number 1 pick on this channel was Buzz Wigington with the Sonics. That was 4 years ago. 4 years of real time, I should say, in the year 2021. That was a long time ago. So we finally get another chance here with the Browns. We'll see if we ultimately keep the pick. I know we only lost by 20, but this game was really a blowout. 67 total plays to 37 for us. 5 different players threw passes. Burrow was super efficient, 31-37. Our QB play was kind of whatever. I mean, Shedeur Sanders was accurate. He didn't miss any throws in the second half, but the offense just didn't really get moving with him. And then Gabriel didn't play that long. Longest pass of the game was Noah Fant, who had a 35-yarder. I thought we ran it well. Dylan Sampson, especially, 7 for 62 and 2 touchdowns. Through the air, all the leaders here are going to be the Bengals because they threw the ball like 40 times. We threw it, I think, 16. Offensive line was not great. Trey Hendrickson had 3 sacks. Obviously, we have all the tackle leaders because we spent most of the game on defense. We had no sacks, which will happen without Myles Garrett and Mason Graham, but we did have the pick 6 by Greg Newsome. That was a fun play. So let's take a look at our weekly recap for the final week of the regular season. We will start in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase looking to clinch the MVP and Offensive Player of the Year awards, respectively. And Burrow certainly, I think, did that, throwing for 4 touchdowns in this game, leading the Bengals to a 41-21 win over the Cleveland Browns, who pick number 1 overall in the NFL draft. Not unfamiliar territory for the Browns. This will be the third time in the last decade. Cleveland picked Myles Garrett in 2017, Baker Mayfield in 2018. Who will join that group? Again, if we keep the pick. The Red Hot Lions have won 7 games in a row. Facing off against the Bears, win and they are in, lose and they are out. Detroit spoils the fun for Chicago, 22-14 with this touchdown by Jared Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Lions are playing better football than anybody in the NFL. You do not want to run into them right now. And then the Rams and the Cardinals. Arizona just playing here to end this season. They do have Kyler Murray back. He missed some time with an injury, but it didn't really matter. Some trickery here from the Rams. The rookie Jarquez Hunter with the touchdown. LA wins big, 30-6. They finished the year 11-6 as the NFC West champs, looking to get another Super Bowl for Matthew Stafford before they possibly look for a long-term replacement. Keep in mind the Rams do have 2 first-round picks, their own, and then Atlanta's pick. The Falcons did have a good season, though. They did make the playoffs, so those 2 picks will both be in the 20s. As we take a look at some scores across the rest of the league, the Jaguars lost. Love to see it. Rough end of the year for Jacksonville. That might push them out of the playoffs, which would be great for our draft pick. We'll have to check shortly. As for the players of the week, Michael Penix, Joe Burrow, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Sauce Gardner. So here we are, 4-13 at the bottom of the NFL standings with the number 1 pick in the draft. Ravens win the AFC North. Can this finally be the year for Lamar to take that ring? Baltimore looks like the overall favorite. Steelers make the playoff as well. Texans win the division. Titans are in. Jaguars are out. So Tennessee beating them during the final game of the year ends up being the difference. Bills win the division. Chargers win theirs. New England is in. Kansas City is out. Chiefs started the year 0-5, remember. Packers, number 1 seed in the NFC. The Lions, meanwhile, have won 8 in a row. Green Bay and Detroit look like the 2 best teams in the conference. Falcons win the South. The Giants at 10-7 win the East, while the 8-9 Eagles make the playoffs. 8-win teams making the playoffs. What a foolish conference. Rams win the West. Seattle makes it in as a wild card as well. We'll do more of a comprehensive look at the stats into the next episode, but here's a brief look at them. I do want to briefly talk about what the offseason is going to look like. I know you guys prefer the 2-episode offseasons where we do free agency and then the draft preview together and then the draft episode. And I probably will do that for the most part in this series. But since we have the number 1 pick, we are going to do something a little bit special for the draft preview. And I think that's just the easiest way to schedule it for this season. I will say I'm going to upload those episodes pretty close together, hopefully. So we should not take too much time in the offseason with picks 1, and then that's not accurate. We don't have 21. It's probably going to be more like 18 or 19 in the first round. New mock draft has us picking Zyron Walker over Kieran Riddle. Interesting. So they believe that we should not pick a quarterback, and we will certainly go through all of our options as we talk about the draft, whether that's picking one of the QBs. Could it be Riddle? Could it be Zarius Stone? Could it be someone else? Could we look at a non-quarterback, or do we look to trade back? Lonnie Block, the receiver from Stanford, is the other first-rounder they have us getting. I've made it clear I want to add more juice to the wide receiver room, and he is a really fun player. That'll wrap things up. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys want to see from the offseason. Which positions should we target? Which prospects do you like? Make sure to leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the hype button. Peace out.